Hello, it's Mike with Mike Smart. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about history of gold and why this is going to help you go find more gold. Check out this nugget. See that nugget right there? Well, you ever wonder why everybody on the internet is so big into like showing off their gold and look what I found and all that, and maybe you're not so lucky or whatever, maybe you get discouraged? Well, I'm here today to try to maybe help you get more encouraged about gold. And so we're going to get a little bit of history about gold. We're going to go clear back to 1792. So I'm going to put my nugget there, and I'm going to use my tape measure here, and we're going to follow along. And so we're going to start out 1792. The gold was $19.75. In 1792, $100 was kind of like $3,300 a day, but $100 buy you a heck of a lot more than what $3,300 could buy you today. So it's kind of strange how that works. So we go on to 1830. Gold is set at a standard of $20.67. That stays the same all the way to 1933. So this is where it gets really interesting. 1933, President FDR, he signs an executive order 1612.
Roosevelt orders 4-day bank holiday, puts embargo on gold. On March 6, 1933, Americans awoke to headlines that would define a turning point in financial history. In the midst of the Great Depression, President Franklin D. Roosevelt declared a 4-day national bank holiday, closing banks to halt panic withdrawals, and under Executive Order 1612, issued by President Franklin D. Roosevelt on April 5, 1933, all U.S. citizens were required to surrender their privately held gold. On or before May 1, 1933, Americans had to deliver all gold coins, gold bullion, and gold certificates to a Federal Reserve Bank or an approved agent. In exchange, they would receive paper currency valued at $20.67 per troy ounce. This order was designed to combat the economic crisis of the Great Depression by increasing government gold reserves and devaluing the dollar. The price of gold was later raised to $35 per ounce, a devaluation of nearly 60%. Non-compliance carried severe penalties, fines of up to $10,000, or imprisonment for up to 10 years, or both. Executive Order 1612 remains one of the most controversial acts in American monetary history. Critics called it an unprecedented government overreach and a violation of property rights. The order was ultimately repealed in 1974, restoring the right of American citizens to own gold. This is the legacy of Executive Order 1612, a stark reminder of the power of government during times of crisis.
012. And what that means is no hoarding of gold, and they needed gold to back the dollar, the gold reserve. So back then, gold backed the dollar. So they had a lot of gold in there, but then they didn't have enough gold, and then the whole depression thing and all that happened. I'm not going to get into that too much about the particulars on that. So basically, 1934, you could turn in your gold to the government, and they would pay you $35 an ounce. So gold stayed flat all the way through to 1973. So I'm going to go ahead and go through this chart, and I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to show you why you're going to find gold. So gold stayed flat. 1971, President Nixon ended the gold standard. By the way, there was like 100 and some countries that followed suit with this whole gold standard and recognized the dollar as the world currency, basically, or back the world currency. So Nixon ended the gold standard. He says, no longer is gold going to back the United States dollar. Okay, cool. But that didn't mean you could still own gold. President Ford comes along after Nixon resigned, and he's watching TV one day, and there's a guy on TV, I don't even know what the commercial was, but anyways, it was about, hey, I can't own gold, and President Ford says, well, shoot, I'm going to make it to where you can own gold. There's no reason you can't own gold. So he made it legal to own gold in 1974. So it went from $35 an ounce to $193 an ounce. Okay? So we're going to jump ahead to 1983. This is kind of a chart of how gold went here. And so 1983, the oil crisis happened, and international crisis is going on, Iran conflicts and whatnot. Gold jumps all the way to $850 an ounce. Okay? So remember this. We're going to come back to all this. So I'll explain it again, kind of like, because there's reasoning behind it. So 1993 comes along, not 1990 actually, the dot-com boom started. Well, that was a lot of money floating, and there were people investing in the dot-com and eBay and things like that, and Google and all these kind of things. So people were dumping their money into that. So gold came down. So nobody was really worried about the economy or whatever. So gold came down to $400 an ounce. Now I'm just doing just relative numbers. We're not getting exact on nothing here. So it even dropped down to $254 an ounce in 1999. Then people were like, heck, the dot-com bubble burst in 2003. And so people were like, well, we need to put our money somewhere. So that drove the prices of gold up. And it started going up. And then 9/11 happened. People were scared in the world. So they started dumping their money in gold. The banking crisis happened in 2008, which drove gold up to $983, an all-time high. So 2008, $983 an ounce. 2011 comes along, and it peaked out up here at $1,755. Then it kind of stagnated for a while until 2019. It went down to $1,200 an ounce, $1,200 an ounce. Then COVID happens, right? Geopolitical tensions are going on. People are afraid of high inflation. Actually, high inflation did start in 2019. So then it goes up to $2,780 in 2023 because of inflation, basically, the scares and all the geopolitical stuff that's going on. Then, today we're at $3,300, give or take, whatever, there. And I'm going to do a little bit about silver, too, right away. Silver was running in the cents per ounce. And then all of a sudden, in 1930, silver was $1 an ounce. It dropped to 28 cents an ounce. So people weren't really mining silver. 1978, for some reason, it went from $5 to $50. Then it dropped back down to the $5, $10 range. And in 2011, it went back up to $50. And now we're running about $35, $37 an ounce on silver. Okay, so why does this have anything to do with you finding gold? Well, I'll tell you why. This is very interesting. So in 1792, the country was going along, nobody was finding gold, and all of a sudden, of course, 1849, the 49ers in San Francisco, right? Everybody started looking for gold back then, and they were able to sell gold, didn't have gold, until 1933. And the gold, since gold was a standard, so $20.67 an ounce is what the standard was. So hence the $1 gold coin, the $20 gold coin was $20. So an ounce of gold, it was an ounce of gold. So then 1933 happens where, Roosevelt, he does the executive order, can't hoard gold. The only reason you have gold is for jewelry. Can't hoard that. It's just like for rings, dentist, and anything in a profession where you had to have gold. You couldn't hold on to gold. So the gold mining dropped. There wasn't hardly any gold mining going on because there was nowhere to sell except for the government, and it was highly contested. And so basically, no gold mining from about 1934 to 1970 ore. Okay? So there was some, because my dad was out doing it in the 50s. He was gold panning, whatnot, in the 50s, 40s, and 50s. You know, and I never did ask him what he did with his gold because I'm kind of learning this myself. So gold starts going back again, and in the 1980s. So from 1943 to 1983, what do you think happens between here and here? There's really not a lot of technology, and people pass it on the trade to their sons or grandsons or whatever on how to mine gold. So the 1980s rolls around, it shoots up here to 1850. Guess what happens? All your gold prospecting clubs start popping up everywhere. And of course, today on the internet, there was a load of people talking about gold, including me. I'm guilty of it too. I got my YouTube channels. But anyways, through the 80s, everybody was kind of like, hey, gold's at 400, 254, and then gold mining stopped. So you had these peaks of gold mining, and then it dropped. So then you had gold mining again, and then so one other thing that hurt the gold mining was in 1977, a thing called SMACRA, an acronym for Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act. And it was basically for surface coal. But what it did is it led to all mining operations, usually led by state laws. But it also started covering any mining that happened on federal lands, like Forest Service or the BLM. So you couldn't just go out and start mining. You could go out and prospect, but you couldn't go out and just start mining. But prior to 1977, you could mine whatever you wanted, and that's why you see all the abandoned mines everywhere, and people want to go in them and all that. You just can't do that today. You have to go through a whole reclamation permit process to even mine. So anyways, when you go out there and you're prospecting for gold and you're doing it as recreation, there's still lots of gold left out there. So from the last 200 years, or whatever you want to call it, no one really had been mining gold until 1983, went way back down to 2003. So look at this time frame here. That's why you still find gold. I went out to a mine site in Arizona the other day, and it's in a very high gold known area. And this guy owns the land, and he was showing me just anywhere he dug, he was getting gram, 2-3 grams in 5 minutes. And he told me, he goes, yeah, all I have to do to pay for my groceries, just go out and spend 5 minutes getting gold off my 40 acres there. I can go buy my groceries. So there's a bunch of gold out there. So I just want to give you encouragement. You can go out there and you can still find gold. Them old timers, they never got it. And we're talking old timers from the 1930s, because that's kind of when gold stopped. It would have been happened here in the 1980s. So go out and get some gold and watch Mike's muck.